Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters and dear friends. Welcome to another episode of Talk to Me. I'm your host, Ali Dawah, on the show. Before I start, I want to introduce our dear devil's advocate, because he's the main guy, actually, has priority. What's your role on this show, Aki?
Okay, yes, Assalamu alaikum. My name's Hamza Patterson. I'm devil's advocate, so that role is to essentially contest the main arguments and try and show the other side of the argument.
Yes, make the show more exciting. And on your left is brother
Yusuf.
Brother Yusuf, may Allah bless him. And here we have brother Muhammad Hijab, who's involved in the Dawah, and he's a YouTuber himself. And we've got brother Asif. Yep. Okay, so today's topic is something controversial. Some brothers get excited when they hear it. Sisters get angry. It's the matter of polygamy. The question that needs to be asked is polygamy something that could be practiced in today's time? We just want to see, where should we start from? Brother Yusuf, I'll ask you the question yourself. Obviously, polygamy is not just because whenever people hear about polygamy, they just think about, oh, this is what Islam teaches. But around the world, you have Christians, you have Hindus, you have Sikhs, you have people in different any kind of religion, they practice this. Do you think it's something that could be practiced in today's time?
I would say yes. Why? Because Islam didn't come for any particular time or era. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He sent Islam as a religion, He sent it so that it's compatible with all times and ages. So if Allah has legislated a particular law, then that law can be carried out in any time, in any place, obviously provided that their conditions are met.
Okay. Brother Muhammad, what's your take on this? Do you think it can be practiced? Do you think maybe men take advantage of this? Expand a bit.
Well, definitely men do take advantage of this, just as they do take advantage of many things, because as the Quran says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى, that surely man is in a state of transgression. And that applies to men and women. But generally speaking, going back to what you said, which was absolutely true, I think it's very important to note that in all of the ancient texts, almost without any exception, like for example, the Old Testament, you have Abraham has three wives, 2 wives or 1 concubine. Solomon has 300 wives and 700 concubines. In other texts, like for example, even the Sikh scriptures, six of the 12 gurus were in polygamous relationships. So this is not an exclusive, like Islam doesn't have the monopoly of on this. And as you correctly said as well, like for example, liberalism as a political philosophy doesn't actually restrict people from, if they wanted to practice polygamy. And this goes for both genders. Obviously, this is not an Islamic ruling, but there's nothing that says within liberalism or atheism or any of these isms really that polygamy shouldn't happen. Actually, the only reason why it's become more of a taboo today is because you could say some groups of society have made it so. So it's not really anything to do with ideology or religion, because most ideologies and religions allow polygamy. So it's all about the situation. So going back to your question, depending on the people that are involved in a relationship, if they feel comfortable and it's consensual, right? And so I see no issue with that. And I think a right-minded liberal would feel the same way.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And although both brothers have brought fair arguments, but I would say on the other side of the argument is that we're living in a country where polygamy marriage is forbidden. It's illegal. Yeah. So, and as Muslims, we've been instructed by people of knowledge and whatnot, like we should obey the law of the land. And although it is permissible in Islamic law, there's nothing in Islamic law that has made it mandatory for us to go out our way to have polygamous marriage. So therefore, when you're looking at two sides of the coin where one is a legal stance on the country that you're living in, to something where it's just merely permissible. I think we should just take the stance of not breaking the law.
Just to kind of contest what you've just said there, it's true. What you've said is correct. It is illegal, but then that begs the question: why is polygamy illegal per se, and adultery is not illegal? I mean, this is an incredible double standard from a moral perspective.
Okay,
so
very valid question. I just want to do like a little survey here. Let's come to the brothers. How many of you guys would get into a polygamous marriage? Be honest, don't worry, the cameras are not on you. how many of you guys would get into a polygamous marriage? For example, not in this, let's say if it was in a country that's legal, for example. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sisters, how many of you guys wouldn't have a problem with your husband marrying again? Yes, that was expected. Okay, one sister. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I want to come to the sisters. Sisters, what is your main concerns with the issue of polygamy? Not that you're against it, obviously. Like, what's your say on it? Like, let's go to some sisters. Like, what is the fears maybe sisters face, or what is it? Like, we want to take it from your point of view. Let's go to the sister, inshallah. Yeah, you sister. Yeah, you sister.
Oh,
yeah.
What I think is it's all about honesty. Like, if you're going to get into it, then you should be honest and upfront before you marry someone, because that girl might not know what she's getting herself into. And what I've seen from like a lot of older people is that they'll like go hide a second wife somewhere, and they'll they wouldn't really tell them, and then somehow they'll all find out, and then the kids will get involved, and like the kids will have some sort of like hatred towards their parent, and that's not nice.
So you're saying it shouldn't be hidden. Let's go
Yeah.
to this sister here.
I
Yes,
think
sister.
it's not really a problem, you know. The only problem is when they make a problem. When the wife thinks that he's done it behind her back,
Okay.
or something like that. That's when it becomes a problem. That's not really
Okay.
a problem.
Okay, let's go to this brother quickly.
I do disagree with one of the sisters that said that it should not be hidden before nikah, because you know, as the law of the Quran, like fitrah, a man might not decide at the point of nikah, the first nikah, that he's not going to do a second one, or he's not going to involve himself in a marriage. But later, during the course of the same nikah, he might decide that I want to go into another marriage.
Okay.
So when it says that it should not be, as in it should be revealed before nikah, because that's not always the choice, and that's not always the case. Sometimes, even for example, if a man said, okay, very liberal, and said, yes, I don't mind getting into two nikahs, or you know how much Islam permits us to, and then if he declares that in the society we're living in, the first thing that the girl, or you know the opposite gender will say, okay, sorry, I can't be with you. So then it becomes hard for the man as well, even though he's according to the Sharia and wants to.
But shouldn't he be open if he says he wants to get married again? Shouldn't he be vocal and open about that to his first wife, that I will do this? That's what the sister's trying to say. Like, you should be open about it.
Before marriage?
Yeah, before marriage.
Before marriage. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's not always the case, because at that point.
Okay, so you're saying the brother might say, you know what, no, I don't want to get married again, but later on he might change his mind.
Yeah.
But then again, we do have a ruling with the scholars say, for example, that if the wife says that, you know, she doesn't want you to get married again, and it's signed, it might be too late for you to change your mind because it's done and dusted, which the sisters might rejoice at this. They don't know about it. However, the question is one of, yes.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to polygamy marriage as well, many of the times, or what it usually boils down to when it comes to the permissibility of it, is that whether the husbands can be fair, whether they can be equal. And there will be someone that will argue against it, that right in this day and age, no, they can't be. Especially in the West and in this country, the standard of living is getting higher. Many people can't afford to take on a second wife. Usually you'll find ones that do engage in that as well. They'll end up cheating the system by trying to do something that is halal, but then again, something again which is going against the law of the land.
Okay.
So, you know, things like that need to be taken in context, and especially in this day and age, it's not recommended.
So any of the brothers here, did someone put their hand up that they said they would get in a polygamous marriage? Brother Farouk.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Yeah, I know you would, but
Yeah.
why?
Why?
What's
it's
behind
halal.
it? Why?
Look, let's
As a man, where are you coming from when you're saying yes, I would?
As a person who lives in Britain, yeah,
Yeah.
you said about it's not obeying the law of the land. The law of the land doesn't recognise nikah anyway. So khalas. My marriage is nikah only. I haven't gone to any British law and got it signed off. My nikah is only a nikah. It's not a British marriage. So they don't recognise my marriage anyway.
Yeah, but it's not against the law though, is it?
No, it's not against the law. So I haven't broken the law.
Okay, but you getting married again.
No, because
Is against
nikah's
the
not
law.
recognised. So it's not even a marriage I'm involved in.
Or-
Nikah is
Okay,
not
I
recognised by
understand.
Britain.
No, we're
so
not talking about here, is it valid or not? We're saying as a man.
Yeah, so I'm
why
saying, so
polygamy?
yes,
Why
I would, and
polygamy?
I'm not breaking the law, and I would do it because it's halal for me.
Is that the only reason? Like, it's halal? As from a man's perspective?
Allah says take 2, 3 or 4. He doesn't say take 1 first. He says take 2, 3 or 4.
But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says...
And then in ayah 2 or 3 ayahs down the road, Allah says, and you will never be just, so fear Allah. You will always love one more than the other.
Let's go to the sisters. Maybe the sisters want to finish the ayah. You know, where he said 2, 3 and 4. Sisters, is that where the ayah ends? Is that where it ends? Let's go to the sister here.
If you feel like you can't be just...
Sorry, can we say that?
If you have a fear that you cannot be just,
then
you take one.
Did you hear that, Farouk?
For anyone to be just.
Yeah, well, I'll let the sister finish it for you.
It's not possible.
Okay, so let me ask a question.
Can we say that we'll definitely be just, we'll give each the amount in regards to money and house and thing. Love is not something that you can control in regards to your heart.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's spoken about this. He says, وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّكَاحِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ فَلَا تُمِيلُوا كُلَّ الْمَيْلِ فَتَذَرُوهَا كَالْمُعَلَّقِ. He says that you will never be able to be just with your wives, and even if you try it. So then he gives you advice. He says, so don't lean. Literally, the Arabic word is quite similar to English. So don't lean in one direction of one woman, so to leave the other one suspended. In other words,
is that in regards to material things, or is that in regards to love?
So what the scholars have said is basically that when it comes to you, where your heart is, you're not held accountable.
But in regards to what we've seen in many statistics, that when brothers that take on another wife, what happens is they end up cheating the system, right? They'll claim single for the second, they'll do benefits, and they'll do little dodgy around the bend things to try and get something, which that's not right, no matter where.
Let's go to this brother here, inshallah.
I saw one of your videos, Dawah Muhammad or Ali, and you were saying that both of you were in the video, and you were saying that people in Britain practice polygamy, but they don't see it as polygamy. Like, so boyfriend and girlfriend having multiple partners, that is polygamy, but they won't see it because of the way they see polygamy, or when they think of polygamy, more than one wife. No, I don't agree with polygamy, but then technically they're doing it already.
Okay, so the question that needs to be asked is, okay, look, if we look at maybe certain individuals, they have a right to have, premarital relationships, girlfriends, etc. So what's the difference? Because if we look at it, we can say, they're actually practicing polygamy, but with no rules or regulations. So, maybe somebody might come and say in Islam, there's rules and regulations to protect the woman. But over here, maybe there's individuals who go out there and just, have girlfriends, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it may be. So what's your take on this? Let's go to this sister and then we'll go here.
Because it's not legalized. It's not written on paper.
Okay.
That's the difference. That's where they can be with multiple partners.
Yeah.
But in Islam we don't have that. You're not allowed to be with another person until you're married.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay. So let's just go to the sister, inshallah. Yeah.
The point that I wanted to make was more on the sense of, if you look at the reasons polygamy happens in Islamic history and in our cultures, it's not because of lust. If you look at, for example, in my country, the living standards are quite bad. So if a man passes away, his brother will marry the wife.
Okay.
And these are reasons that you can fathom make sense. But in the sense of, I'm living in the West and I have desires, you shouldn't even be looking at a woman that's not your wife.
Okay.
It's not halal.
I think that's for as an other side of the argument, I think that's a valid point. I think in regards to our living standards in the West, they're much more richer than what you'll find in people in poverty-stricken countries. So is it a necessity for us to get another wife when there is no need to?
Okay.
There's a lot of brothers who are single, and then you've got brothers that have married and then are marrying other sisters.
So you're saying,
maybe we should give
priority to the single brothers.
priority to the single brothers.
Yeah. So the brothers, is it only desire is the only reason why a man wants to get married again? Let's go to this brother and then brother Farouk.
Jazakallah khair, brother. If you actually see, because I was looking at the figures in this country at the moment, single parents, scary figures.
Yeah.
Not just in non-Muslims, even the Muslims as well. They've gone way past 45, 50%. And one of the things that actually happens is, as we know as well, shaitan makes haram just look really beautiful, really good for us, and he makes us practice it.
Yeah.
Even if you're in marriage, the married guys as well, they like cheating, whatever. So if there's another way of you making something halal for you,
you get married again.
Yeah.
You make, like, you know, you speak to your wife, and if it allows you, if she can afford it financially, if you can look after her as well, fine. You can't love both of them or three of them or four of them the same. But if you can afford it, if you can get rid of that haram, you're cheating on someone else outside. If you need to get married again, do that again. It's not just about, okay, yeah, of course, the law of the land, fine, you can't do all the paperwork. But if you can do the nikah and you can do it right, do it.
Yeah, because, you know, before I come to Brother Farouk, it reminds me of, I was just reading a post on Facebook, not now, long time ago, and there was a profound statement a sister made, which I just found interesting. She was like, I would rather spend half the time with a good man than full time with a waste man. This is what was said. So to be honest, it was, because if you look at it, like, you know, just without being biased here, it's valid, because, you know, it's hard to find good men around. So can we say that maybe plays a role? Maybe there's not enough good men, etc. Let's go to Brother Farouk.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said. That's maybe part of it. But what the sister said, it's not a condition placed on it by Allah. So I follow Islam. So whatever condition Allah places is the condition I have to try and abide by. But for lust reasons, who said none of the Sahaba got married for lust?
Okay.
Why not?
But is that the only reason?
No, but it can be for that person if he wants to. And if he, like the brother said, if he can fulfill the rights and the sister agrees to it, why not? What's the problem?
Okay. He's saying what's the problem? Yes, brother.
Yeah, I agree with Brother Farouk there.
Yeah.
Men don't have to justify why they're going to get married. If Allah's allowed them to take 4 wives, maybe he wants to get married because of his lust. Maybe he wants to get married because, you know, he knows that his wife might actually propose the second marriage to him. She knows his sister. She's struggling.
Yeah.
And then, but if he was to take that, he was second wife, in society, I think today, Islam Muslims, they'll look down upon this man and his wife as well. If he was to take that second wife, they'll think, look at this woman, look how he treats her. And I think it's looked down upon today in society.
Yeah, I think the issue for a lot of brothers is they never question whether they should, but always about whether they could. So Allah says I can do it, so let's just do it, just because I can do it. But should you do it? Is your situation, your circumstance, is it right for you to be doing that? Have you looked at other situations where brothers have gotten married, and how has that happened? How, you know, Ibn Farouk said that the nikah is looked at in this law, but yeah, it is Islamic Sharia Council. They have nikahs that is within the British law. So you need to look at everything into perspective. First of all, that it's not legal in this country. Second of all, even if there are ways around it, what are the repercussions? What are the consequences? And I would say that in many circumstances, it goes against the brother and the sister when things like that do happen.
Okay, also let's
I feel that it does actually fulfill an important need, and that there is a huge crisis when it comes to a lot of single sisters. A lot of sisters, you're looking at 30 onwards. I personally know sisters who are 35, 40, and for whatever reason, Allah knows best, they just can't get married. And this is not just one or two, there's actually a huge crisis. So I think that this issue of polygamy, if, you know, it's not conditional, but it will be, if a sister is okay with her husband, you know, getting married again, I think that it actually deals with a big problem in society.
Okay, one thing, because the sisters have gone quiet, I want to know why they've gone quiet, because it's such a personal issue you guys should touch upon. But one thing, the brothers are making it seem like they're going and stuff, like, forgive me, like they're buying a cookie from the shop or something, because the Prophet ﷺ said, if you have more than one wife, and you're not just, on the day of judgment, you'll come leaning on one side. So it's not a matter that's so easy, because this is consequences behind it. If you're not just, you're going to be questioned about that. Sisters, what do you have to say? Because why were you silent here for? Let's go to the sister here.
The brother there said he doesn't have to justify it. If it's two people in a relationship together, that you guys are married and you want to marry another woman, you have to justify it to me, because it's both of us in the same thing together. So it has to be justified. And the other guy that was like, I can marry two people at the same time, you're making it sound like we're objects. So that's actually pretty rude.
Some valid points there. Sisters, you've got nothing to say to this here, please?
I'm not sure if it's correct, but I heard that if you marry more than one wife, they both have to have their own private space.
Yes.
So, and how can someone afford that in this country? And on top of that, there's nothing wrong with if, like, all the parties agree that, okay, all the three of us are going to be in a polygamous marriage and we're going to do sister wives and stuff. Yeah. That's fine, but then why should that be implemented on a sister that doesn't want to do that.
Okay, so is there any more sisters? Let me just come to the brother Yusuf, and then
just on this, when both brothers and sisters marry each other, there has to be that connection between the husband and the wife, and there has to be that communication between them, no doubt about it. And I think that the house has to be, brought up on Islamic fundamental morals and, tazkiyah to nafs, purifying the soul, and the akhirah is the main goal. Akhirah is the main focus. And where a sister feels it comfortable that maybe there's a Palestinian sister or a Syrian sister, as our brother Asif was mentioning, that needs support, then the sister should be, inshallah, willing in such situations. As the sister made a good point, it shouldn't just be on lust. As Rasulullah ﷺ, he didn't marry entirely all his wives based on lust, isn't it? So we have to think wise, and the family, the wife and the husband should communicate amongst themselves, inshallah, to make it as fruitful as possible. Why? Because there's children involved. And as we said, the statistics, husband and wife break up, look what happens. This one's involved in gang crime, this one's involved in this. So there has to be that communication between the husband and the wife.
Which makes a very, very perfect point what you mentioned, and why the other side of the argument will be for against it is because when children is involved, what tends to happen is when there's a discord between the husband and the wife or wives, then obviously that does directly affect the children. And then when it happens to the children, is then there is no model there to fill that vacuum, and they start to go off on their own.
Which is that we're having this discussion. It's interesting that we had this discussion after we have the feminist discussion, because this is an ample example of something which is absolutely against feminism, and it's in the religion of Islam. And it's almost unjustifiable from a feministic perspective. And from that angle, this is one thing. The first thing I'd advise people to do, if they want to...
Show, by the way, yeah?
No. The first thing I'd advise someone to do, if they're coming at this from an Islamic perspective, is to look at this from an Islamic lens. The Islamic lens is as follows, that women have been given, let's say, generally equal rights to men. However, in certain situations, women have been given an elevated right. For example, if we're here discussing the rights of mothers, compared to the rights of fathers, who would get custody of the children if there's a breakup between man and woman? Usually it's the mother, unless there's some exceptional circumstance. These are things men have to deal with. Men have to deal with that. So for example, if you're in a relationship and the woman and the man are together, and the woman take away the children and literally they live with her now, and they don't have as much interaction time with the father, actually she does not have to justify that to the father. Now the same thing does apply, unfortunately, to women. That there are certain things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from an Islamic perspective has given rights to men to, whereby now women don't actually have, now that's not to say that there shouldn't be communication, there shouldn't be...
I'm going to have to cut you down, I'm sorry. I know you like to say. I want to go to this sister here because, yes, sister. Yeah, because you've been waiting for a long time,
touch that back on Brother Yusuf's point, on how there needs to be communication. Like, I'm not trying to say that it's right. Like, if I was ever married, I would not want my husband to go and have another wife. Yeah. But I feel like you do need to have good communication. You do need to have like a good bond. You need to make sure you both know what's going on within the relationship. For like example, if there was a lady like in Syria or something and she was financially unstable and she did need someone to support her, then I would say that would be correct for him to do that. But also if there was a sister who was unable to give him children, they would have to talk and they would have to have that communication for him to go and have another wife.
Okay, the brothers are going on a mad one, yeah? But before I come to that, one question I'm going to come back to you sisters on is that we should love for ourselves what we love for our brothers and sisters, yeah? So the question somebody might want to ask is, look, if you really care, like if there's another sister who's struggling, who's a single mother, etc., are you going to say, you know what, no, I don't care, I'm selfish, or you're going to sacrifice, maybe sharing your husband, it's not like your husband's leaving. Maybe that's a question that you can ponder from. I'm going to come back to you guys. Can
we use it as an argument? Because
I'm just
we know Islamically that a sister can have that on a stipulation that she doesn't want the husband to get married.
Yes, you're right.
To someone else. That's 100% halal.
You're right.
And the brother, if he agrees to that, then that's it. That isn't a thing. And that's that. We can't say that that's selfishness on regards to the sister.
All right.
The sisters have ones that are conditioned.
Right. Okay, let's go to you got this brother. Yes, Aki.
I do disagree with the sister that said, sometimes men takes women as object. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, that human being has been created in the best form. So I think, you know, around the issue about marriage and second marriages is that men has been created to look after women. And if we live in a society where, for example, me personally, yes, I wouldn't get married, get myself engaged into another nikah, but in the wider community, I do agree with some brothers that says there's other sisters that are suffering and they need someone to take care of them. Now, when the woman says that, the husband should justify why he's getting to get another marriage, then now the question goes to the brother: is he going to justify himself to the wife why he's getting a second nikah done, or is he going to abide by the Quran where it's totally halal for him? Yes, again, if it's done.
You can have a conversation
But
with
then
the
again,
wife and say, listen, you can't.
We have to let him speak.
You can't say that I'm not obeying the Quran and Sunnah if I have to give you a reason to give to the wife that I'm going to get married.
I'm sorry, brothers. I'm going to finish off with the sisters, yeah, because something personal. They should have the last name. Sister, quickly.
So I just want to present the opposite argument to what the brother said. So if, like you said, if there was a Syrian sister that was struggling financially or anything, she doesn't need a brother to come and marry her to take her out of that situation. And if a sister is so concerned about her, a sister is allowed within Islam to help her out of her own money, whatever she makes, she's allowed to spend on her own. So if she was truly concerned, she could help her in that way, and she doesn't need to share her husband to give her that security.
Okay, this sister in the back. We're going to finish off with this sister in the back.
We live in a welfare state that looks after vulnerable women, and I think it's very telling that all the arguments men have for polygamy, and I'm not against it, it's from the deen, is that they want to save vulnerable women who are, suffering from civil war, and women who are, 30 years old and not married. And those are the only kind of women, really, who they seem to be appealing to. We would take you on as a second wife as a favor. And I think if they change their dialogue and started talking about, and as an institution that's very helpful for the family, rather than look at me, I'm saving you, it would be maybe more appealing to women.
No, you're right. We have to finish. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll have part 2 with this show as well, inshallah. What the sister said was very valid, to be honest, because they're making it seem like the brother is doing a favor to the sister. Personally, I believe that the sister is doing a favor to the brother, because the rewards that he's going to get, if in that situation, like I said before, but that's another topic. We'll cover that, inshallah, next time. Till next time, yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh from Talk to Me and your brother Ali Dawah.